Distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends, the Asia-Pacific Commemoration of International Day of Persons with Disabilities will commence shortly. We're just waiting for another meeting to end, and then we will begin. May I please ask you to find your seats. As you take your seats, we will play a short video created by the World Food Programme's Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific. Please enjoy.
Are we ready?
Am I looking okay?
A lot of cameras.
Okay.
Are you ready?
How would you describe yourself?
I am a grandmother.
I am a son.
A sister.
Brother.
Mother.
A daughter.
A husband and a grandfather of two.
I am a friend.
I am someone who can't sit still.
I am a football player.
A music lover.
A swimmer.
An artist.
A cricket player.
A tea drinker.
A huge sports fan.
I am a singer.
I am determined.
I am shaky.
I am resilient.
Passionate.
Curious.
Fun.
Intelligent.
Fearless.
Strong.
I am kind.
Forgiving.
Generous.
Human.
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 I am human.
I am providing for my family.
I am a youth mentor.
I am a volunteer.
I am pursuing a degree in film and television.
I am a Paralympic gold medalist.
I am a smart student.
I am a former UN peacekeeper. I'm about to start my new job.
I am a person with disability.
I am a person with a disability.
I am a person with a disability. And I am
Bettering my country.
Being a role model with my kids and my grandkids.
Casting my vote.
Elevating others.
letting my voice be heard. Overcoming the barriers placed on me.
I am more than my disability.
I am more than my disability.
I am more than my disability.
Way more.
I am just me, and I am proud.
I am proud.
I am proud.
I am proud.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, I would like to welcome you to this year's Asia-Pacific Commemoration of International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Before we begin, please allow me to share a few housekeeping announcements, particularly for our many online participants. Please keep your camera and video off when you are not speaking. You're welcome to use the chat box to share your comments, insights, and experiences. In addition to international sign language interpretation, there is also a live transcription function in Zoom, which you can find in the tool panel of the Zoom window. We are also providing live AI captioning, which can be accessed via the QR code being shown on the screen for in-person participants or via the link in the Zoom chat box. For all speakers and participants, please try to be succinct and to speak clearly to ensure more accurate sign language interpretation and captioning. Without further ado, it is now my honor to invite the United Nations Secretary General, Undersecretary General, and Executive Secretary of ESCAP, Ms. Armida Saisha Alicia Bana, to deliver the opening remarks.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this year's Asia Pacific commemoration of the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. I would like to begin by expressing my deep appreciation to the co-organizers of this commemoration, the Australian Embassy, NOFA Employment's Focus on Ability Film Festival, the World Food Programme, and the Asia Pacific Development Center on Disabilities. The region is at an exciting juncture in our journey towards disability-inclusive societies. 2 months ago, ESCAP members and associate members, Organization of Persons with Disabilities, United Nations entities, and others gathered in Jakarta, Indonesia, and adopted the Jakarta Declaration on the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities, 2023-2032. As we look forward to beginning the 4th Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities in a few weeks, today's commemoration offers an opportunity for us to celebrate our achievements and to begin to lay the foundation for the work to come. As part of the commemoration, ESCAP is pleased to launch the publication, A 3-Decade Journey Towards Inclusion, assessing the state of disability-inclusive development in Asia and the Pacific. The publication illustrates that while the Asia-Pacific region has made progress, but is still far from fulfilling our commitment to make the right real for persons with disabilities. We have yet to realize their right to employment, health, education, independent living, protection in disasters, or participation in public and political life. The publication, however, also offers hope. It highlights numerous examples of governments working together with persons with disabilities. Through this partnership, they seek to understand better the barriers that prevent persons with disabilities from participating on an equal basis and to design new ways of dismantling these barriers. Many of these examples are in line with the global theme for this year's International Day of Persons with Disabilities, which is Transformative Solution for Inclusive Development, the role of innovation in fueling an accessible and equitable world. As the region and the world face the concurrent crisis of climate change, COVID-19 recovery, and rising costs, we need transformative and innovative solutions to inclusively respond to these challenges. The Jakarta Declaration builds on the work of the previous 3 Asian Pacific Decades of Persons with Disabilities while considering new opportunities. I would like to briefly highlight a few of the Jakarta Declaration areas for action that are in line with the global theme. First, accessibility is the key to unlocking the full participation of persons with diverse disability in all aspects of life. We must build on the technologies available to us to design new methods of removing barriers to accessibility. Second, the private sector, with its resources, technological innovation, and talent, offers a chance for us to catalyze transformational change. Workforces, supply chain, infrastructure, and products could all benefit from the application of universal design principles. Third, we must always ensure the meaningful participation of persons with disabilities in both disability-specific and general policy processes. The perspective and experiences of persons with diverse disabilities can illuminate innovative approaches to persistent challenges. The Jakarta Declaration also calls attention to the influence of media and the entertainment sector on the promotion of diversity and the inclusion of persons with disabilities. As part of today's commemoration, we will have the chance to view several short films which showcase this power. Thanks to the support of the Australian Embassy, we will watch some of the winners of the Focus on Ability Film Festival. This festival uses films to challenge people's beliefs and perceptions about the lives of people with disabilities. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today's commemoration shows us the diversity of the regional community engaged in disability-inclusive development, by bringing together representatives of government, UN entities, organizations of persons with disabilities, and other civil society actors. We stand ready to continue collaborating with a variety of partners and to support member states in the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration. By working together across sectors and areas of expertise, we can realize our renewed commitment to make the right real for persons with disabilities in Asia and the Pacific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibu Armida, for your opening statement, highlighting the potential of the Jakarta Declaration to guide the region's work towards disability-inclusive development and setting the stage for our commemoration today. Dear participants, we will now hear special addresses from ministers in the Asia-Pacific region. I am pleased to invite Her Excellency, Ms. Poto Williams, Minister of Disability Issues, New Zealand, to deliver her special address.
Kia ora ana. My name is Poto Williams and I'm the Minister for Disability Issues. Today I'm wearing a blue dress, gold necklace, I have brown shoulder length hair and I'm about of average height. I'm delighted to have been asked to provide brief remarks to this important forum to commemorate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. When I talk to you today, I will use the term disabled people. This is the term used in our New Zealand Disability Strategy and the term preferred by the advisory group of disabled and others who worked with officials on the strategy. It is an acknowledgement that people are not disabled by their impairments, but are disabled by society. I acknowledge and honour the use of people with disabilities by other countries, and I seek your understanding of my use of the term disabled people. I would like to acknowledge the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and Pacific and to immediately recognise their work in initiating 3 consecutive decades of persons with disabilities, starting in 1993. Over this time, attitudes towards people with disabilities have begun to radically shift from seeing disabled people as people who just needed to be cared for, to seeing disabled people as full rights holders. This shift in attitudes was reinforced for me in August this year, when I had the privilege of leading the New Zealand government delegation to the examination on our implementation of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I was proud to tell the committee that we had launched Whaikaha, the Ministry of Disabled People, the first ministry of its kind in the world. Whaikaha is designed to be a ministry that focuses on the rights, strengths, capabilities and aspirations of disabled people. Disability rights and opportunities as a whole of government responsibility, not just the responsibility of those agencies that directly provide disability funding and disability services for disabled people. This is an approach that, apart from a small number of disability visionaries, we would not have considered 30 years ago. At the same time, the UN committee reminded us that there are still many major barriers to disabled people being able to access their human rights on an equal basis to others. These include areas which I understand will be covered at this forum, such as employment, education, and changing perceptions of disabled people. As Minister for Disabilities in Aotearoa, I recognise that we still have a considerable way to go to fully embrace the potential of the UNCRPD. I welcome the willingness of the UNCRPD committee to challenge us to go further in our implementation. That is why declarations like the recent Jakarta Declaration, which seeks to give practical guidance and direction on priorities for implementation, is so helpful, especially as Aotearoa starts to embark on its journey to implement the concluding observations from our recent examination. I see this as more than a compliance exercise to our convention obligations. It is, more importantly, a commitment to good lives for all disabled New Zealanders. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today, and I wish you all the best for the commemoration event.
We thank Her Excellency, Ms. Poto Williams, for her thoughtful address. Dear participants, it is now my pleasure to invite Ms. Ifam Hussein, Minister of State, to deliver her address on behalf of Her Excellency, Ms. Ashath Mohammed Didi, Minister of Gender, Family and Social Services, Maldives.
Excellencies, ministers, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. It gives me immense pleasure to convey warm greetings from the Maldives on behalf of the Minister of Gender and Family Social Services, Honorable Aishat Mohammed Didi, at this special event to commemorate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities in the Asia-Pacific region. On this occasion, I would like to emphasize the importance of disability inclusion and ensuring disability rights and our efforts and contribution to regional cooperation. There are more than 1 billion people in the world with some form of disability. In spite of remarkable advances towards accessible and disability-inclusive societies, an enormous gap remains between commitments made and the daily experiences of persons with disabilities. This year, as we focus on transformative solutions for inclusive development, the role of innovation in fueling an accessible and equitable world, attention has to be given to disability inclusion and ensuring disability rights, as this would be the basis for progress. There is a notable progress that the Maldives has made in the protection of rights of persons with disabilities within the past decade. Within innovation for disability inclusive development in employment, there needs to be good linkage between employment. We need to foster knowledge and skills required to access employment in this innovative and rapidly changing technological landscape. In the past few years, Maldives has been working to offer employment opportunities for PWDs by creating these linkages. We have been working to create skill-based jobs profiles and to develop these skill sets in PWDs. A policy for employment of PWDs within civil service has been put in place. These are policies that all countries can adopt, which would ensure the rights and facilitate inclusivity. The newly enacted Education Act ensures the rights of all students to education. This provides equitable opportunities for students with special education needs from preschool to secondary education to develop their potential to be prepared for higher education and employment. In addition to all academics, innovation and inclusivity in the arena of sports is a priority. One of the key visions is to provide opportunities for PWDs to participate in sporting events. The Maldives Paralympics was formulated in 2019 with the objective to provide equal opportunities in sports at national and international platforms. The Maldives' dispersed island structure makes it incredibly difficult to travel across the country. In an attempt to link the country with inclusivity and accessibility with no discrimination, the Maldives Transport and Contracting Company recently rolled out the Rajya Transport Link policy initiative, which offers affordable and accessible public transportation services, including high-speed ferry and bus services with accessibility and special seats allocated for people with disabilities. Decentralization services is a prime objective. Maintaining access to public services remains a major challenge in Maldives, especially in the outer atolls. In 2021, successful pilot programs were rolled out in 2 atolls using a model of community-based rehabilitation, CBR, for PWDs. The proposed nationwide extension of CBR will enable decentralization of services and the empowerment of PWDs and their families living in the outer atolls and islands in the periphery. The regulation of identification of classification of persons with disabilities, published in 2021, classifies PWDs according to the international best practices. The work of revising the National Disability Registry through an online registration portal in accordance with the classification is underway, and a priority action, key policies and programs can be linked with it for better results. The provisions of a basic disability allowance to all persons with disabilities is one of the key priority policies. Maldives is pleased with a notable progress made in the promotion and protection of rights of persons with disabilities within the past decade. All this highlighted the importance of disability inclusion and ensuring the rights of people with disabilities, which we call upon for all countries to adopt. In this past year, Maldives, spearheaded by Honorable Minister Aishut Mohammed Didi, has been making effort at regional and international platforms to improve the rights of PWDs and to explore avenues of collaboration and cooperation. The minister urged all countries to fully implement the convention and the rights of persons with disabilities, increase accessibility, and dismantle legal, social, economic, and other barriers with the active involvement of persons with disabilities, and to focus on rollout of the next decade of actions. On this International Day of Persons with Disabilities, let us commit to build a sustainable, inclusive, and just future for everyone. Thank you.
We thank Ms. Hussain and Her Excellency Ms. Ashath Mohammed Didi for sharing this inspirational special address with us. Dear participants, as Ibu Armida shared in her opening remarks, today's commemoration builds on the momentum of the high-level intergovernmental meeting held in Jakarta in October to mark the end of the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities 2013 to 2022. We will now view the opening video of the intergovernmental meeting. Please enjoy.
Asia and the Pacific is home to more than 700 million persons with disabilities. A diverse group of women, men, girls, and boys living with some form of disability. Their human rights and fundamental freedoms have been expressly recognized in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And their full and equal participation is essential to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its pledge to leave no one behind. In 2012, the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, ESCAP, and its membership launched the third consecutive Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities and adopted the Incheon strategy to make the right real for persons with disabilities in Asia and the Pacific. In 2017, members further adopted the Beijing Declaration, including the action plan to accelerate the implementation of the Incheon strategy. In 2022, the final review of the decade will lead to new strategic directions on disability-inclusive development. Over the past decade, countries in the region have made progress towards the Incheon strategy goals. 47 ESCAP member states have ratified or acceded to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, a great increase from a decade ago. During this time, more countries have developed disability-related laws, policies, and strategies, including national action plans for the empowerment of women and girls with disabilities. And noticeable progress has been made towards improving the accessibility of the built environment, public transport, communications technology, and services. But significant gaps remain. In Asia and the Pacific, only 1 in every 4 persons with disabilities are employed, compared to 3 in every 5 persons without disabilities. Between 11 and 30% of persons with disabilities live below the national poverty line. And less than 1% of the region's parliamentarians are persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities, especially women and girls, are still more likely to live in poverty than persons without disabilities. They are less likely to be employed, are significantly underrepresented in national parliaments, and many do not receive any social protection benefits. Children with disabilities are less likely to participate in early childhood education. Persons with disabilities are more likely to die during disasters. And we still need more data across the region to design effective policies. As the current decade of persons with disabilities concludes in 2022, we must acknowledge these remaining inequalities and renew our commitment to action. A whole-of-government approach must be adopted to supporting and empowering persons with disabilities. Partnerships must be created with a wider range of stakeholders, including organizations of persons with disabilities and the private sector, to address the emerging challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic, population aging, climate change, and to leverage the opportunities presented by digital transformation. And the peoples of Asia and the Pacific must recognize that disability inclusion is everyone's business. By joining our forces over the next decade, we can and we must make the right real for persons with disabilities in Asia and the Pacific.
We hope you enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed this informative and inspiring video. As part of the End of the Decade Review, ESCAP is pleased to launch a new publication today that takes stock of the progress made and remaining challenges regarding disability inclusive development in Asia and the Pacific. The latest data and practices have been collated in this publication to inform innovative policymaking and programming on disability-related issues. To mark the launch of the publication, I would like to invite all of today's speakers for the commemoration to join ESCAP's Executive Secretary on the stage for a group photo. Dear participants, this concludes our opening session. We will now have a panel discussion focused on moving forward into the next Asian and Pacific decade of persons with disabilities. This agenda item will be moderated by Dr. Srinivas Tata, Director of the Social Development Division of ESCAP. Dr. Tata, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jessica. After this inspiring opening session, it is my privilege to moderate this panel discussion on moving forward together during the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities 2023 to 2032. As you can see, we have an excellent panel of representatives which constitute from governments, United Nations entities, and organizations of persons with disabilities. The panelists will help us discuss and arrive at some conclusions as to how the region can work together to successfully implement the recently adopted Jakarta Declaration on the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disability 2023 to 2032, which was adopted last November. And as you know, the Asian and Pacific region has had a rich history as a leader in disability-inclusive development. In the first two Asian and Pacific decades of persons with disabilities, ESCAP member states contributed to the shift towards viewing persons with disabilities as right holders rather than just receivers of charity, and created a regional draft, in fact, that laid the foundation for the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, as many disability rights activists will acknowledge that some of the initial discussions leading to the convention were held within the auspices of ESCAP. So you can be really proud of your contribution. At the last recent decade, which was concluded in 2022, the region once again led the way with the world's first set of disability-specific development goals in the form of the Incheon strategy, 10 goals, 27 targets, and more than 60 indicators just based on disabilities, which was followed by the Beijing Declaration, which formulated an action plan to implement the Incheon strategy and provide further guidance. As we look for a new chapter for disability-inclusive development in the region, the panel today offers us an opportunity to begin to reflect on the lessons learned from the implementation of previous decades and consider the new opportunities that exist today for innovation and transformative change. For the panel discussion, we will start with an overview presentation to just inform for those of us who might not be in there in Jakarta, to kind of highlight what were the key conclusions of the key elements of the Jakarta Declaration. I will then introduce each of our distinguished panelists before I ask them a question, which they'll have about 4 to 5 minutes to respond to. And then, time permitting, I'll open the floor for questions and comments from the audience. And I'm sure many of the distinguished delegates here will have something to contribute to the discussion. So without much ado, it is my honor now to give the floor to Ms. Sai Sai, the Chief of the Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Section in ESCAP, Social Development Division of ESCAP, to provide us with the brief highlights of the Jakarta Declaration. Sai Sai, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Tata. Excellencies, distinguished participants, the high-level meeting on the final review of the third disability decade was successfully conducted in Jakarta and online from 19 to 21 October 2022. This Asia-Pacific intergovernmental meeting was a critical milestone to review progress made, achievements, and lessons learned on disability-inclusive development in the region, and to foster consensus on strategic directions we need to take in the coming decade. The meeting was attended by over 400 delegates from across the Asia-Pacific region, including representatives from 40 ESCAP members and associate members, 1 permanent observer country, 58 CSOs and organizations of persons with disabilities, as well as 30 intergovernmental organizations and UN entities. The main outcome of the high-level meeting was the adoption of the Jakarta Declaration, by which member states proclaimed the fourth Asia-Pacific Disability Decade. The declaration was based on the final review of the third decade, which recognized that the region had not met most of the goals and targets of the Incheon strategy. Therefore, it identifies 6 strategic directions, as shown on the screen, to accelerate actions while the region will continue the implementation of the Incheon strategy and the Beijing action plan. Taking this opportunity, we would like to acknowledge that the final review, the intergovernmental meeting in October, and the Jakarta Declaration would not have been achieved without the tremendous contribution of all governments and extensive expert contributions from the disability community across the region. A key feature of the high-level meeting and its outcome is on building partnerships. The conference held substantive panel discussions on innovative partnerships. In addition, a wide range of bilateral meetings and side events were facilitated to enable partnership discussions and development. It has created great momentum and fostered consensus on important strategies to strengthen partnerships for disability inclusion, putting persons with disabilities at the center. This means more dynamic and stronger multi-sectoral collaboration, especially in terms of engaging OPDs, Organization for Persons with Disabilities, in policies and solutions that are being developed by governments and the private sector. It entails collective and systematic efforts, including governments, national parliaments, private companies, and international organizations to empower persons with disabilities as leaders, decision makers, and professionals across all sectors. This also means that intergovernmental bodies like the UN need to support the mainstreaming of disability issues into regional, sub-regional, and national level development cooperations. We will start by leveraging such partnership mechanism to develop a pragmatic action plan for the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration in the coming months. Today, we will hear from an important multi-stakeholder panel about their perspectives and inputs to this action plan. Regarding the next steps, ESCAP is initiating the process of developing the action plan through consultations with UN partners, member states, and major OPDs. We aim to make this action plan practical and implementable. Therefore, concrete inputs from all stakeholders are warmly welcome. Meanwhile, we will work closely with the Working Group for the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities, comprising 15 member states and 15 regional CSOs, to support the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration in the coming decade. To assess progress, a midpoint review of the implementation will be undertaken in 2027, and a final intergovernmental review will be conducted in 2032. We look forward to your creative ideas and continuous support in this journey to make the right real for persons with disabilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Saisai, for explaining the key outcomes of the high-level meeting in a succinct manner and setting the stage for our panel discussion. I have the honor now to turn to our first panelist, who is Mr. Ke Yu Sheng. Mr. Ke has been the permanent representative of the People's Republic of China to ESCAP since 2020. He holds a master's degree in public and international law from the University of Melbourne and has served as a counselor in the Department of International Economic Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China, prior to which he was also the counselor at the Mission of China to ASEAN with extensive multilateral experience. And also, he's been a great supporter of the disability work of ESCAP, related work of ESCAP. So, Mr. Ke, my question to you is, China was the host country of the midpoint review of the last decade in 2017, where ESCAP member states adopted the Beijing Declaration, including the action plan to accelerate implementation of the Incheon strategy. As now the region prepares to implement the Jakarta Declaration, what are the critical roles that governments must play in implementing the Jakarta Declaration for the new decade if we are going to make it really effective and make real progress? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Tata. Your Excellency, Madam Executive Secretary, Ms. Amita Alice Javana, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to attend today's meeting as a panelist on this very important Asia-Pacific commemoration of International Day of Persons with Disabilities. And I also would like to thank Ms. Chai Chai for the briefing on the outcomes of the high-level intergovernmental meeting held in October. So at the outset, let me congratulate all the ESCAP members, associate members, and the Secretariat, particularly the team headed by Mr. Tata, on the successful convening of the high-level intergovernmental meeting on the final review of the third Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities, and on the adoption of the Jakarta Declaration, in which we proclaim the fourth decade and extend the flagmanship initiative on disability-related work in our region. My special thanks also goes to the Indonesian government for hosting this high-level intergovernmental meeting. I think adoption of this Jakarta Declaration and the positive outcome from this high-level intergovernmental meeting has fully reflected the strong political will and the partnership of members of ESCAP to further advance the empowerment of persons with disabilities in our region. Chair, China is an active promoter with concrete actions to advance the decades of persons with disabilities and also the implementation of the Beijing Declaration, including the action plan to accelerate the implementation of the Incheon strategy. As you have said, China was the host country of the midpoint review in 2017, when ESCAP member states adopted the Beijing Declaration, including the action plan, which provides a practical pathway for disability-inclusive development in our region. The past years witnessed significant progress of disability-related work in China. By 2020, 7 million impoverished persons with disabilities in rural areas in China has been lifted out of absolute poverty as scheduled. Meanwhile, the government guarantees the rights of persons with disabilities to take part in public and political life. Over 6,000 persons with disabilities and representatives of their interests serve as representatives to the People's Congress and as members of the People's Political Consultative Conference at all levels. The 20th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, held last October, reiterated in its report that China will further improve the social security and service systems to promote all-around development and related programs for persons with disabilities. Moreover, China is also actively engaged in regional and international cooperation in this area, with steady yearly contributions to the Asia-Pacific Multi-Donor Trust Fund for the decade, and through the China ESCAP Cooperation Program to support the concrete projects in the social protection and social development areas. And China has been supporting the Secretariat to implement various capacity building projects also in developing countries in the area of the development of persons with disabilities. So for the third decade, China is the second largest financial contributor in this area. Currently, sustainable development in the region is being hindered by multiple challenges. With the 700 million persons with disabilities in our region, these are proportionally impacted, and we need to build on past achievement and renew our efforts in the fourth decade. And government, we should make more ambitious efforts. The first, protection of persons with disabilities should be incorporated into national development plans. And we need to put people at the center and keep improving the social security system for persons with disabilities. Development is a priority. We need to facilitate employment, entrepreneurship of persons with disabilities, protect their rights to subsistence and development, particularly for women and children, so their well-being could be improved through the economic empowerment and social securities. Second, we need to enhance digital inclusiveness. Government could grab the opportunities of digital transformation to improve barrier-free public facilities, including ICT facilities, technologies and innovation. Technology and innovation could be better leveraged to improve the public services such as rehabilitation, education, cultural and sports activities, as well as data governance, thus to better promote disability inclusion in our society. Third, we need to deepen the regional cooperation. Governments and other stakeholders could deepen exchange of best practices and cooperation on capacity building to address the common challenges. China has put forward the Global Development Initiative, which aims to renew the global focus on development and accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We welcome all parties to join this initiative to advance the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration and disability-related SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, the fourth decade has started. Faced with complex and challenges, vulnerable groups, including the persons with disabilities, need to be taken into account in the national and international development agenda. China is ready to strengthen the cooperation with ESCAP members in stronger partnership in advancing the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration and the fourth Asia and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disabilities, and will continue to support the work of the Secretary to realize a comprehensive, inclusive, resilient, and sustainable decade, and to deliver on our promise of leaving no one behind. I thank you, Mr. Tata.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirk, for your insightful remarks and suggestions on the role that governments can play in the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration. I note with particularly you mentioned a number of areas, including high-level political commitment, integration into national development plans, and above all, your commitment towards regional cooperation for supporting other governments in the region implement the Jakarta Declaration in the new decade. Thank you very much. Our next panelist is Ms. Ju Young-yoon, who is the acting chief of the International Cooperation Team of the Korea Disabled People's Development Institute. Ms. Yoon has been working for the Secretariat of the Make the Right Real Fund to implement the Incheon strategy and conducting the Korean government-led Disability Inclusive International Development Program since 2017. Ms. Yoon will be participating online, and my question to you is that the Republic of Korea has played an active role in the implementation of the Incheon strategy to make the right real in our region. What are the important lessons learned that you have learned as being part of CODI? And also, what would be the priority areas and strategic issues that your government will consider in the new decade? So over to you, Ms. Yoon, your 4 minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Tata. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ju Young-yoon, Acting Chief of International Cooperation Team of Korea Disabled People's Development Institute, CODI. I'd like to convey my gratitude to ESCAP, the Australian Embassy Thailand, APCD, and WFP on the hosting of this meaningful commemoration. It is my great honor to share lessons from the third Asia and Pacific decade on persons with disabilities and priorities and strategies for the next decade. At the outset, CODI has been designated as the Secretariat of the MRR Fund by the Ministry of Health and Welfare in Korea in 2013, and consistently implemented diverse programs to fulfill the rights of persons with disabilities in AP region. CODI not only has strengthened reliable and comparable disability disaggregated data through cooperating with ESCAP, but also has contributed itself to social development by implementing empowerment program for disability experts in the region. We've supported independent living of persons with disabilities in Indonesia, Laos PDR, and Myanmar through vocational rehabilitation. At the present, we respectively provide grant programs to nonprofit organizations in Korea and organizations of persons with disabilities in the AP region. This is for enhancing opportunities of disability inclusive international development and raising public awareness based on the public-private partnership, PPP. Accumulating experiences in PPP, many momentous and timely agenda, including rights of persons with psychosocial disabilities, digital accessibility, and empowerment of sign language interpreters were discussed in the international level. The government of Republic of Korea is fully aware of the importance of cooperating with civil society and raising the general public's awareness on fulfilling disability rights and sustaining disability inclusive development. After the adoption of the Jakarta Declaration, CODI would like to expand international grant program based on PPP and operate diverse education and training programs targeted on disability experts from the public and private sectors as well as on the public. I kindly encourage you to give your sincere attention, concern, and participation towards this CODI's movement. I'd like to appreciate once more to all the participants here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yun, for your intervention and highlighting some of the learnings and your support to the last decade, and also highlighting this very critical area on education that you highlight and the public-private partnership. So we will be definitely, all of us will be interested to work with you to ensure that the Jakarta Declaration is really implemented strongly. Our next panelist is Mr. Murali Padmanabhan, who is the Regional Disability Inclusion Advisor for Asia Pacific, who works with the World Food Programme, who are one of the partners for our event today. Mr. Padmanabhan, as you can see himself, a person with disability, has 27 years of experience and exposure to gender and disability-inclusive humanitarian response programs across Asia and Africa. He has worked extensively to advance the rights of fellow persons with disabilities and believes that collaborating, mainstreaming, and empowerment are key to achieving a sustainable and inclusive world. Murali, my question to you is, using public procurement to promote disability-inclusive business and infrastructure and products was highlighted during the high-level meeting that was concluded in Jakarta in October this year. So the World Food Programme procures billions of dollars in food, services, and programs. What impact would disability-inclusive procurement processes within WFP have? And what role do you see in yourself playing in the new next decade, especially in this important area and in other areas? Over to you, Murali.
Thank you, Dr. Datta, and distinguished guests, gentlemen, ladies, friends, fellow persons with disabilities, and colleagues. It's a great honor to be here and speak about this very important topic of public procurement and participation of persons with disabilities. Disability, I would say, as Dr. Datta said, I've been in the sector working with fellow persons with disabilities for the past 3 decades. What I see is it's an evolving concept where when I became blind, it was a kind of charity. But today, we are on an equal footing. We are able to sit alongside the so-called mainstream society and talk, negotiate, and have a kind of collaboration. This is the real change I could see in my own personal experience. Yes, thanks to UN Disability Inclusion Strategy, which talks thinks beyond the welfare of person with a disability. It talks about the equal participation of persons with disabilities, talking about the very organizational culture, how the UN agencies can become more disability inclusive, where they start the issues ranging from leadership, it goes on to our strategies, how we look at partnership with organizations of people with disabilities, how we look at the very employment of persons with disabilities within our own UN organization, how we can become an employer of choice for persons with disabilities, how we can ensure that our structures and our policies, institutional frameworks are more accessible to persons with disabilities, how we can really make our colleagues much more sensitive to the issues of disability. So it ranges from, so many things are enshrined in this strategy. And one is the area of procurement. How we look at procurement. As Dr. Datta was mentioning, WFP, for example, we being a largest procurer of so much of food and nutrition-related stuff, internally as well as externally, we looked at how we can ensure, based on the UNDES, we embraced the UNDES since 2020, and we came out with our own roadmap, and we had a pilot program across the region, and we had a full-time person to coordinate, support, build the capacity, sensitize, and try to integrate disability in all our program, and how we can collaborate with others, and how we can support organizations of people with disabilities in advocating for their rights, and how they can be more of contributors from a level of beneficiary. So even we want to change that trend. So what we look at, our key principles are like engagement, how we engage with persons with disabilities. What is that? We collect and use the data. We talk about the data disaggregation, which is one of the biggest challenges in our work. So how we can really collect and use the data to inform our program, and how our supportive systems can be made more sensitive to disability inclusive, and how we can remove the barriers so that there is an equal opportunity for people with disabilities to participate and contribute meaningfully. So this is the basis for us to look at. And what we did in the past. So we looked at our own procedures, our own policies on procurement, how we can make it much more disability inclusive. Our goods and services, are they really accessible to persons with disabilities? Within our own organization, we have made some awareness material, like how inaccessible a coffee machine could be for a visually impaired, or how the transport can be made accessible to a person who is a wheelchair user. So we had demonstrated some basic case stories to sensitize our colleagues. And it's not only the procurement colleagues, but also the people who are requisitioning for the goods and services, be it the consultancy for any of our work. It's not just the goods in kind, but also the services we provide in terms of studies or in terms of supporting our work. So how we are hiring the consultancy firms. So we looked at the entire gamut of our procurement process and how we can ensure the organizations of people with disabilities can participate actively and contribute to that. So there will be some kind of affirmative actions required. Of course, we are not in a very ideal, inclusive world as yet. So what are the kind of positive discrimination we should be considering? So what we did, we started looking at our own procurement SOPs, adding few questions for the potential vendors to look at. Are they really disability inclusive? Are they having employees with disabilities? Are they, how are they approaching disability? Is there any discrimination to persons with disabilities? And even we encouraged vendors with disabilities to be part of our bidding, and how we can support in promoting their contribution to the work. Of course, there will be some hiccups, so we need to be very sensitive to understand, and we need to take some affirmative action that way. So, and in the meantime, we trained our own in-house colleagues, what is accessible and goods and services, how we can ensure that, And it is not at the time of purchasing, even at the very designing level. When we drafted terms of reference, we ensure that we have the element of accessible goods and services are inbuilt in our reference. And we have a long-term agreement with a partner who helps us in ensuring that the terms of reference has the element of accessible goods and services reference, plus they will also help us in ensuring the kind of potential seller is going to be much more disability sensitive and inclusive. That is one thing. So what we have done, what we have achieved in the past few years, we could engage with OPDs in doing some of our studies. We procured through the procurement process, we could have OPDs supporting us in supplying food material in some of the emergency response program. We have OPDs supporting us in conducting studies around food and nutrition security, how the people with the disability are disproportionately impacted, and what is the kind of reason, what are the barriers that prevent them from accessing the goods and services that are provided through WFP or even with the government. So these are some of the good practices examples we have got. And what is that is possible? See, we as government or even we do lots of procurement. How we can look at the vendors with the disabilities being part of our procurement process, how we can ensure our communication reach them so that they also join this bidding and they become a contributor from a very recipient level. The governments are doing lots of social protection measures. There are some free distribution. There are midday meal scheme program happening across the countries where we are in. And there is food security program, the flagship program. How the groups of people with the disabilities and their organizations can be part of this. And like you have the kind of farmers, producer organizations where you have the people with the disabilities contributing as farmers, as suppliers. So these are the avenues the governments can look at and ensure people with the disabilities are contributing, and that also takes care of their employment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Murli, for a very pragmatic enunciation of some of the steps taken by WFP and what are the plans for the future. As you know, ESCAP 2 is focusing on the procurement of universally designed goods and also the issue of preferential contracting, both of which you referred to. Thank you very much for your passionate and for your wonderful work in this regard. Our next panelist is Ambassador Pirun Lai-Smith, who's the Executive Director of Asia Pacific Development Center on Disability, or APCD. Ambassador Pirun has served in the Thai Foreign Service for 37 years and was also the Director General of TICA, the Thailand International Cooperation Agency, and served as an ambassador of Thailand to the state of Qatar. Ambassador Pirun, you have been a long-time partner of ESCAP, and you APDC promotes South-South cooperation very, very strongly. So can you please explain, in your perspective, how regional cooperation, including partnership with civil society and private sector, can be encouraged in order to ensure effective implementation of the Jakarta Declaration?
Thank you, Dr. Tata, and good afternoon to everyone. I consider the guideline of South-South cooperation as a significant mechanism to foster disability inclusive development. It plays a key role to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goal as operation part to push Goal 1 to Goal 16 of SDG achievement. As we all know that post-COVID-19 pandemic, the climate and disaster crisis, political and economic conflict, inequalities, and rising inflation of current global situation are affecting many of the disability inclusive development gains in which South countries have struggled for decades to achieve. Therefore, we should support regional cooperation to push forward the disability inclusive development as follows. First, most countries of the South are engaging in collaborative learning models to share innovative adaptable and cost-efficient solutions to address their development challenges. Regional cooperation can strengthen and benefit to the inclusive development of the South. Second, effective cooperation should go far beyond financial contribution. North-South technical assistance are creating new and innovative response for social and economic disability inclusive development challenges, ranging from poverty and education to climate change, post-conflict, and reconstruction. Thirdly, traditional donors can increase their effectiveness by engaging triangular cooperation or directly supporting South-South schemes. The developing countries are playing a key role in transforming the development agenda. Applying with Jakarta Declaration, engaging with civil society actors and private sector, helping accelerate the achievement of SDG and CRPD. Fourth, South-South cooperation has proved to be a valuable resource to North-South development cooperation when addressing emerging disability inclusive development challenges like climate change, disaster risk, food security, social protection. South-South cooperation is now go beyond the traditional role as aid recipient. It's become a horizontal partnership for disability inclusive development. And to the question that what role should it play in the implementation of the Jakarta Declaration, I think that to achieve the Jakarta Declaration, the capacity building for persons with disability, the efficient collective data of persons with disability, the facilitating networking and collaboration among governments, non-governments, disabled people, private sectors, and civil society organizations are key mechanisms. I believe that through networking and collaboration, we'll create win-win situation and further drive disability inclusive development forward. And in order to accelerate and ensure a fruitful outcome of Jakarta Declaration, APCD would like to welcome more contribution from advanced countries who has new knowledge, new skill, good practice, advanced technology, and innovation to improve disability development. Potential countries include China, Japan, Republic of Korea, Singapore, Australia, and New Zealand. They can play a key role in contributing to the progress of disability inclusive development in Asia and the Pacific. Finally, I do believe that through commitment, collaboration, and new creation among different stakeholders at all levels, from community, national, and regional actors, we'll be able to push forward and make positive change toward a more inclusive society to ensure a better quality of life for persons with disability in this region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Pirun, for sharing your ideas of how regional cooperation can support and contribute to effective implementation of the Jakarta Declaration, and your appeal to developed countries and resource countries to really help other countries really reach new heights. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce Ms. Vilani Ramangasao, who's the co-chair of the Pacific Disability Forum, who's also a board member of the International Disability Alliance and representing the Pacific Disability Forum, and who's the focal point for the disability constituency in Asia Pacific under the Asia Pacific Regional Civil Society Engagement Mechanism for the APFSD. Ms. Vilani will be speaking to us online. Ms. Vilani, my question to you is the importance of meaningful participation of persons with disabilities has been repeatedly stressed and once again highlighted in the Jakarta Declaration. We would like to hear from you as to how governments, as well as international organizations, can ensure the meaningful participation of persons with disabilities. What does it really mean, and what really needs to be in place for that to happen? Over to you, Vilani. It's great to see you.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you to the ESCAP colleagues and all the organizers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Velanir Mangsao from Palau and attending this important regional event as co-chair of Pacific Disability Forum via Zoom all the way from Cairo, Egypt. I am pleased to speak on behalf of Organization of Persons with Disabilities across our region. As a person with disability, this topic is critical to achieving full, effective, and meaningful engagement and participation of persons with disabilities. We acknowledge organizations of persons with disabilities who have been making valuable contributions, starting at Incheon to the successful implementation of strategy over the last 3 decades, and as well as the Jakarta Declaration. However, the attitudinal and environmental barriers continue to exclude persons with disabilities from fully and effectively participating in society on an equal basis with others. Therefore, we persons with disabilities want to highlight the following as we prepare for a new decade and Jakarta Declaration implementation. Partnership built at the core of Leave No One Behind principles is key to progressing development for persons with disabilities in this post-COVID world. Consideration for the meaningful engagement and participation of persons with disabilities in government policies and programs, partners' initiatives, donors' investment, both bilateral and multilateral. Whether it's disability-specific intervention or investment that is meant for the general population and mainstream programs. It's also very important that the UN agencies who are intergovernmental partners on the ground coordinate better their work at the regional and national levels. Our preconditions to inclusion must come first, including accessibility for all, access to assistive device and products, availability of support services and social protection, community-based inclusive development, and non-discrimination. We affirm such preconditions to inclusion for persons with disabilities are necessary to achieve the Jakarta Declaration and Incheon strategy. Diversities and the specific needs of persons with disabilities need to be recognized and their interconnectedness. In particular, women and girls with disabilities who are usually further marginalized and are vulnerable, whether in disaster preparedness and recovery or in understanding and grappling with the impact of climate change. Whilst regional cooperation towards disability inclusive development has so far generated very positive outcomes and is quite unique, these partnerships need further collaboration and regional mechanism facility that will coordinate, drive, and generate synergies for lasting impacts. Our equity issues must also be brought to bear alongside our inclusion if the soon-to-be 4 decades of addressing the concerns, dreams, and aspirations of persons with disabilities in our region are fully realized. In conclusion, we persons with disabilities recognize the new decade as a renewed opportunity to build on the foundation where organization of persons with disabilities can work with government and multi-stakeholders to find more innovative approaches to engage on implementing the Jakarta Declaration as well as the Incheon strategy. We look forward to continuing to work with ESCAP, states parties, and our sister OPDs into the new decade to make the right real. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Villani, for your very clear outlining, highlighting the points which really we need to pay attention to if we are to ensure the meaningful participation of persons with disability, and for highlighting the value of the Jakarta Declaration for this purpose. Thank you very much. We have come to the end of the interventions by our panelists. I know that we are a bit over time, and because we started slightly late, but I think we will take a few interventions from the floor, because there are a few requests that we already have on hand, and be very useful to hear from the floor. And then after which, I think we can proceed to the second part of the program. But the first request that I have is from Ms. Yoshiko Tomoyama, who is the Deputy PR of Japan to ESCAP. And did you? Ma'am, I had this on. Sorry, my apologies. So I think I think there was some confusion. She doesn't want to. Okay, we'll. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. We'll come back to you later if you so wish, ma'am. Or would you like to take the floor now? Please, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for giving the floor. You kind of took me by surprise here.
Apologies, ma'am.
But the government, just wanted to say, the government of Japan takes its pride in leading the proposal on the world's first region-specific disability decade initiative in 1993, when awareness on disability issues was still quite low among member states. Well, 30 years will have passed since then, and in this long period of time, we know that there's a paradigm shift that went on, as you have said, from a charity-based to a rights-based approach to disability. And it has been obtained in many parts of the region. We also saw a shift towards an evidence-based advocacy and reporting on disability inclusion, which is now being gradually practiced. The government of Japan is quite proud to be part of this milestone and legacy change, and that we have, at the same time, we are quite aware that we continue to be interested in enhancing awareness and technical capacity of member states and persons with disabilities in many areas ranging from accessible tourism to disability-inclusive disaster risk reduction. We're also proud to be part of the Bangkok draft, which became a basis of the current Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. So while our government looks forward to support the ESCAP's continuing endeavors to pursue the goals of disability rights and disability inclusion over the next decade, we'd also like to echo and underscore the importance of yet another new paradigm shift that's in place in disability issues, which is the economic approach. Partnerships among corporations based in Asia Pacific, governments, ESCAP organizations of persons with disabilities can certainly yield a wider and perhaps quicker outcomes in realizing and the awareness and realizing and increasing awareness on abilities of persons with disabilities. We'd like to continue to support such multi-pronged approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam. I think you're very correct. The Biwako framework in 1993 and your support for disability inclusive DRR projects in ESCAP, and we look forward to your continued support. And I apologize also for catching you by surprise, but it was wonderful to hear your contribution, ma'am. So thank you very much. Our next speaker, who will be joining us online, next request is from Mr. Marco Toscano Rivalta, who's the Chief of UNDRR in Asia Pacific. Mr. Rivalta, maybe a short contribution from you?
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Distinguished delegates and colleagues, really my warm thanks to the organizers, the panelists, and also the delegates who just spoke from the floor for your important remarks, including concerning disaster risk reductions. UNDRR, my office, really strongly values the partnerships and leadership of persons living with disabilities and their organizations. For the advancement of inclusive DRR, we have benefited a lot to make the global platform for DRR, the regional ministerial meetings for DRR inclusive. So it's really a special thanks that I pay tribute to. And I would say that there's such an important role of the persons living with disabilities and their organization is profoundly enshrined in the Sendai framework for disaster risk reductions. And now we are in the midterm review of the Sendai framework that is concluding with a high-level event in New York in May 2023. And the midterm review of the Sendai framework is really a fundamental opportunities for countries and other stakeholders to really review how much policies, investments for disaster risk reductions are truly inclusive, and then adopt the necessary measures to enhance that on the basis precisely of the findings of the midterm review. Our strong understanding is that, as also mentioned in the Sendai framework, effective disaster risk reductions goes hands in hand with the promotion and protection of human rights. And this has been also clearly stated most recently at the Asia Pacific Ministerial Conference for Disaster Risk Reduction that has been co-organized with Australia and kindly hosted by Australia. And in this respect, United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction truly welcomes the decision by the Committee of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to develop a general comment on Article 11. We think that this is a very important opportunity to further strengthen the foundations of effective and inclusive disaster risk reduction work. And to support this, our office has just published a report as part of the midterm review, Sendai midterm review process, which we'll be very keen to share. So thank you again. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rivalta. Very informative, and we look forward to working with you. We will be taking one more intervention, noting that there's time for question and answers after the next session, which I assure you will be extremely interesting with extremely topical and the films that we have on persons with disabilities. So I will have one last speaker, who is Senator Monthian, who we all know is one of the most passionate advocates of rights of persons with disability and who has inspired us for many years now. Senator Monthian, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tata. Very warm greetings to all distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, friends and brothers and sisters. I have a very short intervention, but I'd like to point out something that would resonate what we have been talking about. And I think, I hope that we will all agree that UN ESCAP and all other partners have been doing excellent work for the past 3 decades. In this circle, we have been drafting, adopting, and implementing lots of policy documents. We're now in the 4th period under disability inclusive development. Amongst us in the disability field, it may sound a bit mild, but in the mainstream society, disability inclusive development is nothing easy at all, but it's probably one of the most breakthrough if we could achieve. But I would like to encourage, and I hope I'm not mistaken by saying empower our friends at UN ESCAP to see how eager we persons with disabilities would like to be more involved in the broader spectrum of UN ESCAP. We would like to see disability inclusive involvement in many aspects of the infrastructure of this region of the United Nations. We would like to be actively involved, as we have a lot to contribute in the business sector. We would like to be involved in the disaster risk reduction, as mentioned by our colleague a while ago. We'd like to be involved in the digital transformation, which has a lot to learn from disability community, especially in the accessibility aspects. So by allowing us to be more visible beyond this beloved social development division, we are ready to stand with you and to prove the success that you have been doing for the past 3 decades. We hope that this will make disability inclusive development a very good beginning and a very resonant fanfare, so to guarantee the end result of triumphant for all of us at the end of the decade. And finally, I would like to stress the need to accelerate the work of UN ESCAP to promote public procurement paper to ensure accessibility, because everything has to be manifested through the use of money. I hate to say that. And what could be more effective than to expect each government to use its budget wisely by embedding this disability inclusion in the public procurement. This will allow us to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. to ensure accessibility and to ensure economic empowerment to persons with disabilities through preferential contract or promotion of disability-owned businesses. I hope that these 2 points will help us accelerate and make the disability inclusive development more practical, more concrete, and let us hope and let us give up on giving up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Monson. You never disappoint. You've really inspired us at the end and reminded us of the urgency of our work, the fact that disability inclusion is everyone's business. Before I hand over to the MC to introduce the next item on the agenda, I would like to request all of you to extend a warm round of applause to all our panelists for their contributions and also to the people who intervened. So you can. Over to you, Jessica. Thank you very much to all panelists.
Thank you, Dr. Tata, for your excellent moderation of this fruitful panel discussion, and invite the panelists to take your seats. Dear participants, we will now move to our third agenda item, focused on screenings from the Focus on Ability Film Festival. It is my pleasure to introduce Her Excellency, Dr. Angela MacDonald, Australian Ambassador to Thailand, to deliver her remarks. Please, Ambassador MacDonald, the floor is yours.
Distinguished guests, friends, advocates, it's a real honour to join you for the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival and to commemorate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Australia is proud of its global leadership on disability rights and inclusion. We were the first donor to develop a disability inclusive development strategy in 2009 and the first financial supporters for the UN Disability Inclusion Strategy. Earlier this year, we co-hosted the 2022 Global Disability Summit, Pacific Satellite Summit in Fiji with our regional partners. Disability inclusion is a cross-cutting priority of Australia's international engagement across the board, from foreign policy to human rights, from humanitarian action to development cooperation. We have disability inclusive investments across our aid program. In 2021-22, we had 120 investments which targeted or mainstreamed disability inclusion. In this region, our disability rights in ASEAN investment supported the development and implementation of the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan 2025 to mainstream the rights of persons with disabilities. Last month, our Minister for International Development and the Pacific announced that Australia will develop a new international disability inclusion and rights strategy. This strategy will outline our commitment to promote and protect the human rights of people with disabilities, and it will ensure that disability inclusion continues to be a cross-cutting priority of Australia's international engagement. In our work in this space, we want to continue to shift the conversation about disability rights and inclusion. And so language matters, as Minister Poto-Williams eloquently referred earlier. Data matters, and thank you for this publication, which provides us with a lot of data about where we're up to and where we need to go. And our stories matter. And that's why this Focus on Ability Film Festival is so important. The films you will see today help to shine a light on disability issues in Australia and across the world. They highlight persons with disabilities as rights holders. I'd like to pay tribute to Nova Employment for the critical work it does to support persons with disabilities in Australia to find and maintain fulfilling careers. Thank you to Nova's CEO, Martin Wren, and to the Creative Director of the Focus on Ability Film Festival, Ryan Goodwin, for helping us to share these films today. We hope you enjoy them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador MacDonald, for your thoughtful and insightful remarks. I am now pleased to introduce the video message of Mr. Martin Wren, CEO of Nova Employment.
Hello, I'm Martin Wren, the Chief Executive Officer at Nova Employment in Sydney and the creator of the International Short Film Festival Focus on Ability. Can I start by apologising for not being able to be with you in Bangkok personally? Nova Employment is a leading Sydney disability employment service. We've been in operation for 32 years, and yes, I've been here for all of them. Nova, we look after people regardless of the level of disability, assist to find and keep great jobs. The Focus on Ability International Short Film Festival has been with us since 2009, and each year it gets bigger and better, and we're really looking forward to continued growth in the years to come. It started when I asked 12 local high schools to put together a short 5-minute or less film highlighting the achievement of their fellow students. The idea of that was that if we started and got the kids involved, it would be a very positive thing for them in their relationship with students with disability, so long as it promoted the ability and or the achievements of people with disability. And it's continued to go from strength to strength. But over the past 14 years, we've now received films from over 60 nations, making it a truly international festival. The aim of the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival is to present the achievements and the ability of people with disability to an audience who possibly haven't been exposed to such information previously.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, filmmakers, judges, film lovers, sponsors, welcome to the Nova Employment Focus on Ability Awards this year.
Entries come from all over the world and from all kinds of people, from professional filmmakers through to people who've grabbed the camera and high school students. Anyone can enter a film. One of the things that's really important to us as the creators of Focus was that it would be as cheaply done as possible. And that's simply because people with disability are frequently impoverished or relying on welfare. But we wanted to be, anybody could be involved in the film, anybody could vote in the film, anybody could take part in the whole box and dice. And it's had a tremendous impact. We get feedback from countries from all over the world, all united in one thing, the desire to present the positives out of people with disability. Entry is free, and anybody is welcome to put a film in. You can go to our library on focusonability.com.au and go through some of the previous year's winners and some of those that didn't win anything but just got a great message. There are some great prizes for successful filmmakers, and these range from international trips through to a car, cash prizes, professional development that you couldn't buy, and a range of other opportunities. It's my hope that Focus on Ability will continue and will continue to grow and expand, bringing a message around people with disability and the positive achievements and contributions they've made, through to emotional films that change our attitude by touching the heart. In so doing, you'll help promote the achievements of people with disability. So we're calling on you to use your talent and your experience and your insight to make great films. Finally, my sincere thanks to Julia Feeney and the staff at the Australian Embassy in Bangkok. I'd like also to thank ESCAP and the World Food Programme and the Asia Pacific Centre on Disability for including the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival in your own commemoration to mark the International Day of Persons with Disability. I hope you're having a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Wren, for your message and your efforts to create this inclusive film festival. I am now pleased to introduce Mr. Ryan Goodwin, Creative Director of the Focus on Ability Film Festival, to introduce the film screening and afterwards to host a question and answer session. Please, Mr. Goodwin, the floor is yours.
Hello everyone, thank you for this opportunity to bring the Focus on Ability Film Festival here to Bangkok and around the world. As caretakers, and that's what I see us as, of over 2,500 stories, whether it be through film or documentaries that we've been entrusted by people with disability, by family members of disability, by carers. They've entrusted us with these wonderful 5-minute or less short film pieces, and then it's our duty then to share those around the world through our platform. So this year alone, we had films from over 19 countries, and we had more than 350,000 people get on and view and take part in the festival when we put everything online. What I am here for today is to introduce you to the film pack that's about to come up. So it's a snapshot of what the festival is about. You'll see, I think, 8 different stories. You'll be taken all around the world. You'll be showcased and introduced into the lives of people with disability, whether it be the challenges that they may face at times or celebrate their achievements. But what it does and what it will do is provide education to every viewer. It'll take you on a bit of an emotional journey also. I know sometimes we can go through days in our life where we don't actually feel too many emotions. Well, you're going to change that over the next 35-40 minutes because it can be a bit of a journey. But emotions help us educate, and to be better educated is how we create a more inclusive society. So I think we throw to the films now, and then I might chat a little bit more after the films. Thank you.
This kid just can't catch a break.
It's his second placement this year, right before the holidays.
He kept asking for Linda. I wish she hadn't retired.
At least this placement came through. Everywhere else is at capacity.
Thanks, Cole. You really pulled off a miracle here.
That's what I do.
Hey, Andy. Mind if I join you? You're really good at drawing.
I'm just coloring in the lines.
Better than I could do. We'll have to get you a new book soon.
Superheroes?
Of course. Where'd you get these? Your new foster mom is really excited to meet you. Hey.
It's not fair. I want to go home.
You're right. It's not fair. But look at these superheroes. Their lives weren't very fair either.
What do you mean?
They had to go through some pretty painful experiences to gain their powers.
Yeah, I guess.
Being a superhero is hard work, but so is being a kid. So maybe you've already got some superpowers you didn't even know about.
Maybe.
What's wrong?
What if there's villains at the new foster home? Could I defeat them?
You can always call for backup. Someone like me or Cole could be like your goofy sidekicks if things get tough. And you always have these guys to help. Who's that?
She's the most powerful of all. She can read minds, has eyes on the back of her head, and can run faster than a cheetah. I call her Calliope.
Wow.
She was from my mom.
Good to go.
Hey, Actually, why don't you hang on to that one? Squeeze her if you need some extra superpowers. I feel like we need a secret handshake or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Hi.
Jamie! Rebecca, Jamie's here!
Hey, kid.
Come on! Look!
Awesome castle.
These guys needed somewhere cool to live.
And how's Calliope?
She's training these newbies. They need a lot of work. But we're getting there.
Yeah. We're getting there.
It's one of the funny things that I struggle to get my head around, is when people say wheelchairs, you know that if you're able-bodied, you see this thing that you presume is confining. When you're in a wheelchair, it's awesome, it's your freedom, it's your life, it's like there's nothing confining about it, and it's the thing that opens up yourself to the world. Hi, my name is Ahmed, and I go to East Hills Boys High School in Armenian. I was born with a disability called spinal bifida, which is an incomplete development of the spinal cord, which is also associated with hydrocephalus, which is extra fluid that builds up on the brain. This required me to get a tube into my stomach to be able to drain out the fluid. I want to point out that it's really not different to any other students. We all are here for the same purpose and will get our education in the same way any other person would.
Hi, I'm Miss Jokic. I'm Ahmed's year advisor, and I've been his year advisor since he's 7.
Hello, my name is Karen Sabins, and I'm the Deputy Principal at East Hills Boys High School. I had the pleasure 3 years ago to oversee the enrolment of the Year 7 boys, and in those enrolments was a young man by the name of Ahmed. Ahmed was the first boy that came to our school that had a disability for, chair, in a chair. Ahmed has blossomed here at East Hills Boys. I'm sure he would have blossomed anywhere that he went to because of his personality. But at East Hills Boys, he has shown us what it is to live with a disability and to integrate into a mainstream high school.
Ahmed performs at school really well. He is an independent, capable student who is able to get involved with everything, and he's really engaged and enjoys participating in all school activities, really.
Well, the challenges Ahmed faced, we faced with him as well. So the first thing we had to be aware of was where we were rooming Ahmed, and we take that in consideration every year when we start the timetable, which is not a problem. We just need to prioritise that to make sure the rooms are accessible for him. We had to work with a body of people called AMU to establish ramps and accessibility to majority of our blocks so that Ahmed could integrate thoroughly into the high school. For sport, we have arranged for Ahmed to introduce us to wheelchair basketball, which was a great experience, and his class got to play with an instructor that came out from the Wheelchair Association to show us exactly what that sport enabled, and it also allowed Ahmed to play freely with his own friends at his level.
So as his year advisor, my job is more about welfare, how Ahmed settles in around the school, how he feels dealing with his peers, relationships with teachers and friends and all that kind of thing. Predominantly I help Ahmed when those kind of issues arise. So for him, he has actually really developed greatly. At first he was a bit unsure about making friends, but now he's kind of killing it.
Ahmed inspires me to be a better person with like strength and all that, because I can't imagine being in Ahmed's shoes, all the stuff he has to go through. So he inspires me to be a better person in general.
Resilience for me, it's the ability to be able to call on yourself when struggles are near. And it's something that you build, and it's something that you manipulate. I know that I'm stronger because my whole life I kind of demanded it. I built a stronger expectation of who I was or who I am. When you're reflecting now, you realize that you know the wins and the losses weren't into one.
When I was pregnant, I didn't know that Karuka had Down syndrome. So my world shattered. I was scared for her future, and I didn't know how I was going to bring her up. In front of people, I would put on a happy face, but when I was alone, there were thoughts, unwanted thoughts. My mother one day told me that Karuka would be all right when she grows up, and that she would be independent. But at that time, everything looked so bleak.
A few months after Karuka was born, I was having a long conversation with the mother of a child with Down syndromes, a daughter with Down syndromes. It was a very long conversation, and I was asking her a lot of questions about what it's like to bring up a child with Down syndrome, what they are like, how they behave, etc. At some point in the middle of a conversation, she made this very profound point. She said that at the end of the day, Karuka is going to resemble more my other daughter than her daughter, meaning the daughter of the person whom I was talking to. That's the sort of thing that has been a repeated theme throughout bringing up Karuka.
Karuka does speech therapy and occupational therapy. She goes for music therapy, which calms her down, and she also does sports physiology, which helps her with the physical activities. Most of all, Auslan is something which has been very useful to her because she's also deaf in 1 year and she has moderate hearing loss. She has picked up Auslan really well, and sometimes she teaches me how to sign certain words which I don't know. Can you tell me, how do you sign Amma? Amma. Amma? That's Mum.
As important as these life skills are in developing Karuka's ability to function independently in society, our primary goal is for Karuka to have a life with meaning, purpose, love and fulfillment. We soon discovered Karuka's love for photography. This soon developed into a passion of Karuka's that we saw as a fantastic opportunity for her. We realised that she needed a platform to share the photos that she was so proud of with the many people who have been so influential and supportive throughout her life. This was the beginning of Down to Earth, showing Karuka's original photographs as she explores her world through the lens of a camera.
She's not a child who is defined by Down syndrome. She's a child, a unique child, and her art is unique to her. I think her photos have a strong sense of place. There are flowers always with the background of the sky. There's a lot of sky. There are roads, paths leading to somewhere. She sees place in a very, very interesting way. She brings her own meaning to the places that she photographs. I also noticed that although her photographs are very grounded, they are also reaching for something. In that sort of having the sky as a background, the paths, roads, etc., they are also reaching to something.
Photography is a passion of Karuka's that is unrestricted by her abilities. She doesn't need to wear hearing aids, she doesn't need to be told what to do, and most importantly, it is a reflection of her abilities that also brings her great pride and joy. We've already seen her abilities create success, winning the Wisdom in Focus People's Choice Award, and also even hosting her own exhibition this year in June. We're so proud of Karuka, and we know that she has the potential to go so far with her photography. We hope that it will continue to give her great meaning and passion in life, whilst demonstrating her abilities and her great talents.
We live in a society where we are constantly trying to hide or silence the things that we don't like to see. The sort of the rush to have a perfect body image, an immigration system that actually stops or prevents people with disabilities from settling in Australia, to the thousands of fetuses that are aborted every year because they have a disability. We are constantly trying to curate our society to look in a particular way that we like to see. I see Karuka's photographs as a disruption to this. I would invite you to bring your own interpretation to our photos and also to bring your own meaning to it.
Alright, class, open your books to page 20 and start reading. What can I do for you, Jacob? I can't read the book properly. I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do. I have a vision impairment. Lunchtime. So how's your morning, Mr. Johnson? Well, apparently Jacob has a vision impairment and he can't read his book because the print's too small. I have just the solution for you, Miss Johnson. Did you know there's a treaty called the Marrakesh Treaty? The Marrakesh Treaty allows people who are vision impaired or blind to access books in an accessible format. Really? It allows vision impaired people to access published copyright materials in ways such as braille, audio, or large print. That's fantastic! Put simply, it means you can access books in a different way without getting into trouble by breaking any copyright laws. That's amazing, Principal Joe. The treaty began in Marrakesh, which is a city in Morocco, located in North Africa, in 2013. That actually where it is? Our country, Australia, was one of the first 20 countries to sign up to the Marrakesh Treaty. Oh, that's so cool. This means we should all be entitled to access books the way we need to. It really does. Special delivery from Jacob. Thank you. The Vision Support Team is always here to help. Is there anything else we can help with? Thank you. You have made my life better.
Hey there, my name is Nathan Testman, aka MC Wheels. This is my good friend Rachel, who I've challenged to do a day in the life of MC Wheels with a bunch of challenges and tasks, and we're about to have a chat and see how that went. So the first challenge that we did was a phone challenge, and we had to tape your arms up and your hands for you to experience what it's like to have some muscles and limbs taken away. How was that?
Took me a long time to write a text message, and I think it ended up sounding German.
Because you had to use your nose, and you don't often do that, so that would have been quite tough.
No, not often at all.
Right. After that, we did a jumper challenge of you having to lay on the floor and try and put a jumper on in my fashion, and you seem to be very frustrated with that.
I was very sweaty by the end of the exercise, that's for sure. Yeah, that was annoying. Your patience levels are impressive.
I wanted to challenge you to ride around on a skateboard, because obviously I'm on a skateboard outside of my wheelchair pretty much 100% of the time. How did that go?
Yeah, that was a tricky time. I felt like I was going to face plant every time I turned a corner. Or every time I did
Had a couple of stacks.
Swivel.
You had a couple of stacks, but you got back on the board and kept going. And then you did well out in the markers, out in the concrete to, you know, weave around and all that sort of stuff. So I think you did really well with that. Yeah.
Thanks.
The biggest challenge I think was to take you in the electric chair out in public for you to experience, obviously, you know, pathways and roads and uneven grounds and all that sort of stuff, which I think was probably the most scariest part of it all. We took you in the van. You had to sit in the back of the van for a bit. That wasn't, you know, for too long and stuff, but obviously it wouldn't have been that comfortable and fun.
No, not overly.
But it was good for you to experience what it's like for people in that sort of, you know, regard who have got to do it day to day and all that sort of stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. So the scariest part was you had to drive around in the electric chair on footpaths. How was that? You had a couple of little scary little moments.
That was frightening. Yeah, I think when I lost control I thought that I was going straight, and then I lost control going down that driveway.
Because the weight of the chair just started to slide.
Yeah, and I think it had been a little bit rainy, and there was some flowers or whatever on the ground, and it was super slippery, and I completely...
You almost slid into a bin. Yeah.
I think I did slide into a bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That was frightening. As I said, I think if 177 kilos. If I you know, took a wrong turn and that landed on top of me, it would hurt.
Yes. So then after that, we went and took you out in public for you to eat at a restaurant, and obviously for someone to feed you as they have to feed me. How was that experience?
I didn't love it.
Okay. Yeah, clearly you didn't. Yeah. When we were there.
I think not only, you know, people, you know, looking at you is not a nice feeling. But also being ready for another bite, and whoever's feeding you not also being ready.
Yeah, not being as fast. Yeah. So even though we are friends and mates and all that sort of stuff, you do support work as your full-time job. So how has this experience, you know, broadened your mind on people with disabilities and the work that you do with them?
Everyone who's going to be caring for somebody should really spend a day in the life, whether it's, you know, sitting in the wheelchair and feeling what it feels like to be driven around, or you know, just trying to do the things that you do. It's given me a whole new level of appreciation for you. I don't know how you're so happy all the time. I think stepping into your shoes, it was frustrating. As I said, I think at one stage I felt like I was close to tears, just out of frustration, because things weren't, you know, happening quick enough, you know, I couldn't do something that I'm used to. So
I think you're right. I think it's good for people to experience it, and I'm glad that we were able to, you know, come up with these challenges and tests for you to experience it. And
I'm sure they won't be the last.
No, definitely not. So I really hope you guys all enjoyed it, and hopefully if there is anyone out there that's watching this as a support worker, you might want to give it a challenge with your own clients.
Spend a day in the life.
And see how it goes. So thanks so much for watching.
Bye.
My name is Rylan and I am 9. I like to watch YouTube and play Roblox. I also like to pat the dogs and hug them. I have autism and I have ADHD combined type. I also have dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. I have anxiety disorder and a sleep apnea disorder. Pragmatic language disorder. I also have severe food allergens. I also have sensory processing disorder. Autism is a problem in your brain and it affects all kinds of things. Your sleeping and mostly your anger and your sadness. I was diagnosed when I was 4 years old. Some cool things is that I can hear conversations from miles away. I also don't like loud noises, but I like smooth things. This is my dog Harley. She is the best dog I've had so far. I love her so much. She is the best dog in the world. She's like in my heart everywhere. That's how much I love her. She's my therapy dog as well. Mum looks after me a lot and she takes me to all my appointments. Mum helps me the most. I am homeschooled. She helps me do homeschooling. I like how she fights for everything and she is the best mum ever.
My name is Danae and I am mum of 6 and Rylan is my youngest. He's 9, I'm his full-time carer, his educator and he's my absolute world. Rylan was diagnosed at the age of 4 with autism and in the years following he's had a multitude of other diagnoses that have affected his life. When we took Rylan for his initial assessments at age 4, I always knew that I didn't want to say that there was something wrong with my child, but I knew that something wasn't right. During his younger years, there were a lot of signs that I didn't recognise until after we'd spoken to the paediatrician that these were flags for autism and sensory processing disorder. He was a very unsettled baby. When Rylan was diagnosed, I heard the word autism, but I didn't really know too much about it. After the diagnosis came through and doing my own research, I realised that Rylan being different is not a bad thing. He may struggle harder than some kids, but there are so many things about autism that make him the unique little individual that he is, and it's something that needs to be celebrated more.
So what are some challenges that you find with having autism?
Some challenges is where you can't control it, and when you bond with someone, you can, if you have to switch, it will be hard for me to switch. Something that I can't control is my anger. Like if I get angry, my brain just switches off and I can't control it. I get frustrated about how I can't think straight, and when I get distracted on too many things while I'm trying to do schooling. Sometimes I don't feel normal. I mean, not sometimes, all the time. I think that other kids think I'm different because it's harder for me to do work and I just act weird and they don't like how I have autism. I wish that everyone tells their kids to stop bullying because then I'd be able to go back to school and see all of my friends again. I wish that kids stop bullying kids that were different.
In late 2017, we heard about the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival, which gave people with a disability an amazing opportunity a platform to showcase their ability.
We entered for the first time in 2018 and had a blast making our very first short film. We also decided to head to Sydney for the awards night. We didn't know what to expect, but boy were we overwhelmed by the experience.
We got to walk a red carpet for the first time and meet some amazing people. We learned that you didn't need to be a finalist to be recognised and acknowledged.
By the end of the night, we had realised that we were a part of something truly special.
Over the years, the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival has empowered us. It has given us a voice, the opportunity to tell our stories, and most of all, it has shaped the direction of our service.
With hard work and dedication, we are now a filmmaking program.
We have worked on a Bollywood feature film,
music videos,
commercials,
and continue to write, create, and inspire. And we owe it all to the Focus on Ability Short Film Festival.
So I hope you enjoyed taking a brief snapshot into the lives of people with disability that have been a part of our festival. I know there's a lot of data and information that's been shared today, and the festival comes with a lot of anecdotal evidence. We get told all the time what it means. But one thing I can share, I was speaking to, you would have seen the film there with the young boy, Rylan, 9 years of age, and he's homeschooled, and he was homeschooled due to bullying that happened within the schooling system through lack of education of and knowledge of what his skills and abilities were. Through the film festival and through that film taking out a major prize in the festival this year and it being celebrated not only around the country but within his former school, Rylan is actually going back to school next year and participating in mainstream schooling. So it's a terrific outcome for us in the festival, and that's just one of many that's happening right around the world. So I want to thank you for the opportunity today. I would also like to, we are wanting to grow the festival in Asia and the Pacific, so please, if you can assist us in that, I would love to speak to you and we can look at ways at developing this further in your countries and nations. So I believe we may be taking some questions if that's the next part of proceedings.
Yes. Yeah. A question raised is how do we, people and community, help promote this film festival?
Yeah, wonderful questions. So for people that are here today, all our films are up online, focusonability.com.au, and we just love getting people to view our films, to participate. We would love more nations to participate each year, so if you can help us pass out our information through your nation for people to participate. We're back again next year. Entries close mid-July, so people have plenty of time to put together their entry for our festival. Share the films that are in our database. We've got over 2,500 films. It's the largest film database for people with disability in the world. It's searchable by disability type. We have people within some life-changing outcomes. You know, when a person has a child and they've been told that that child has a disability, they're often told everything that that child can't do. We've found evidence that in some of the hospitals in Australia that people are getting shown some films from the festival to then show all the wonderful abilities that that child may have rather than all the doom and gloom that may get passed on. So yeah, the more that this festival can be shared and people can see the films, that would be the best way for people to assist us.
Ryan, you didn't mention a lot of films in your database.
how can they be used by disability or organizations, the persons with disabilities, or by other organizations who want to promote the cause of persons with disabilities? So what are the conditions, the copyrights, or what are the permissions that would be required?
Yeah, so we have, as an organisation, we've got a 10-year copyright on all the films, so we can then, part of that copyright is, gives us permission to use these films in the promotion of people with disability and create more opportunities and awareness. So we can then, if people are having events such as this, we can provide these films to be packaged and to be utilised to help create change. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It's very inspiring for me, even though I cannot take all of the message from all of the films. I would like to take like a few comments, but I think it is very important. First of all, the film is very inspiring and also to illustrate the ability and achievement, as you said, but I think it wouldn't be better if the film can be accessed by all audiences. I mean, I'm not sure the people can just send out the about the criteria of making the film, and also for the judges. If it is possible to add the accessibility features like the audio description or the closed captioning, so that we can also enjoy the full content of the film. And also the second question about the criteria again. If in case the people who the language is not like taking English as a native language, if they are interested to join to participate in this program, if can they just like send the film for the competition, but with the subtitle, but the language is in their native language. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions. Yes, so the festival, we have many different ways that we screen the films. There's accessibility we're always trying to improve, and there's definitely times where we have all those features available. Unfortunately, not every opportunity enables us to provide that. So we're definitely working on our accessibility in terms of that. Every event that we have is always fully captioned, and audio descriptions is something that we're working on as well. It's all comes down to funding sometimes with issues, so we're always constantly on the search for more funding and more opportunities for that to happen. I think with your other question, I think about 30% of our films this year were in a different language other than English, and then those come with English captioning for those. So it's a very, 19 countries participated, and yeah, I think about 30% of those were in a different language other than English. Yes.
Thank you very much for the very heart-touching films, wonderful, wonderful works. One question is that, are these films considered to be used as tools for the younger generation, like very young, like in primary schools or pre-5, 0 to 5 years, so that they can be engaged and imprinted with the ideas of the challenges that people are going through? And the second point, as ASEAN Training Center for Social Work and Social Welfare, we will be more than happy to be a bridge if you have the news of the films next year, 2023. We will be very much to share this news to our ASEAN member states and our partners. Thank you very much.
Yeah, wonderful. I would love to have that connection and be able to do that for sure. So the film festival initially was all about being within the schooling systems and educating people from a young age about the skills and abilities of people with disabilities. So that way, that was just part of their makeup, I guess, when they went into the next generation of, being employers or being teachers, and that sort of was just, the way that they thought as being inclusive. We saw the festival continue to grow, and now it's part of a larger landscape. So we've gone not just in schools, but we're outside of schools as well, but it's still the heart of our content for sure. I know I'm a 38-year-old, and I know that I'm a little bit hard to persuade, but I reckon I was a lot easier when I was younger. So we're trying to capture the minds of the youth, but we'll keep hammering away at the 38-year-olds and the people that need to hear a bit more of this messaging. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. There are some comments from the online participant. Let me read them out. The Focus on Ability Film Festival is a marvelous initiative, and Nova deserve a warm appreciation. Another comment say, wonderful and beautiful. Congratulations and many thanks for showing these short films. And lastly, great initiative indeed. Comment the great work of the whole team and actors. It has the power to inspire and empower so many. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, yeah, I would love to connect with as many people, both in this room and online as possible. We're very easy to be in touch with, focusonability.com.au, and also on social media. So please reach out. We would love to take advantage of some of these opportunities to keep spreading the festival on a global scale and in Asia and Pacific. Thank you.
Well, you reached out to a big online audience apart from overseas. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin, for answering these questions, allowing us to learn more about this inspirational film festival. Dear participants, it is now my pleasure to introduce Ms. Anita Hirsch, Deputy Regional Director for Support Services in Asia and the Pacific for the World Food Program, to deliver today's closing remarks. Please, Ms. Hirsch, the floor is yours.
It's on. Okay, I was looking for the button. Sorry. Thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure. I think looking at all those movies and listening to all of you, my first instinct is to say, well, you know, we just need to have all those ideas and thoughts sink in, and maybe you don't need my closing remarks. But let me use them anyway. They're here. So again, thank you to all of you, esteemed colleagues, to join us today to celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disability 2022. In the region, we have 2/3 of the people living with disabilities. I think we also are home to many powerhouse advocates who are leading the way on disability inclusions, many of whom are here today or online, and I want to thank them very much for the inspiration that they provided. The recently adopted Jakarta Declaration on the Asian and Pacific Decade of Persons with Disability sets a policy framework for governments, civil society, and regional actors like WFP to work together to advance the rights of persons with disabilities and ensure that we, government and supporting organizations, fulfill the mandate of the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. As we work together, and we've heard a lot, Mr. Ke Yongsheng, permanent representative of China to ESCAP, highlighted the critical role of governments in leading implementation of the declaration. Mrs. Ju Yong-yoon, acting head of the International Cooperation Team, Korean Disabled People's Development Institute, shared critical insights and learning from the work already underway to advance the rights of people with disability as a collective foundation for us to build on. Murali Padmanabhan, our regional disability inclusion advisors, emphasize the massive economic and social impact inclusive and accessible public procurement can have on the lives of persons with disabilities, and boost national and regional economies, and be good for the business, including OPDs. We also heard from Ambassador Pyrone Laysmith, Executive Director, Asia Pacific Development Center on Disability, emphasizing how regional cooperation, including partnership with the civil society actors and private sector, is critical for inclusive development in society. Mrs. Villani Remengesau, co-chair of the Pacific Disability Forum, highlighted the importance of meaningful participation of OPDs and persons with disabilities in the decision-making process, leaving no one behind. Her Excellency, the Australian Ambassador and Nova Employment, just highlighted the contributions of people with disabilities across society through the spotlight of the Focus on Ability Film Festival. We are proud of the global leadership this region has taken in advancing the rights and inclusive participation of persons with disabilities, from the policy level to the way in which we collectively work and engage. But there is more to do. We are in the midst of our global campaign on 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Let us also be reminded that disability is not a standalone constituency, but one which intersects with gender, age, indigeneity, and a range of layers which, without proper attention and inclusive participation, leaves the most vulnerable behind. Research continues to find that persons with disabilities are more food insecure and eat last, and that women with disabilities experience higher level of food insecurity when compared to men with disabilities. At WFP, we commit to continuing to ensure that disability inclusion is not just something we do, but the way we do things, from partnering with the disability community to ensure the way that we design our programs and deliver services and information is accessible and inclusive, and so is the way we procure, recruit staff, or design our office spaces. I want to close with a sincere thank you to our organizers for including us all in this celebratory conversation, and I wish you all a wonderful IDPD week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Hirsch, for your remarks, and once again highlighting the importance of the inclusion of persons with disabilities. Excellencies, distinguished participants, and friends, this concludes our commemoration. Thank you very much for your participation in today's regional commemoration. Please join us outside of the hall for refreshments. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful day.